Hello and welcome to another edition of Here's the Pitch. It's sponsored by Masses Restaurants in St. Louis. There's 5 locations. stlmasses.com is their website. Go there, check out the menus, directions, and maybe you'll see a picture of Joe Buck, our guest today, who is with me. Because he's a St. Louisan and I know he likes to travel to St. Louis restaurants and just pop in and sign photos.
Yeah. Oh, hell yeah. I think that's the one thing, Brad, that my wife has found out moving here from LA, originally from Denver, that St. Louis on the restaurant side is probably still a hidden gem. I think we have good hospitals, we got great schools, 2 really good sports teams, and great restaurants. And a nice community that I think is really conducive to raising kids, which I'm doing for the second time in my life. So, yeah, I'm becoming an expert on that too.
Yeah, congratulations. I was thinking about this. This is, I don't know if I'm sure it's been mentioned, but your dad obviously had a couple marriages, had some kids, older and then younger. You're following this pattern. You're doing everything your dad did.
It's kind of, it is weird. And I've thought about it before. Kind of the timing of things away from work. Work is kind of obvious. Yeah, I rode in on his coattails. I was doing Cardinal games when I was a little kid, 21 years old, and got an early start. And that's all on one side of the ledger. And then on the other, the personal side, whether it's divorced at about the same time, a second family, and kind of some of the stuff that went on around his career, I do feel like I am just basically living his life all over again, minus serving my country in World War II. I mean, that's kind of a huge piece of who he was and really what defined him, because that, him going to Germany in World War II and earning a Purple Heart is what allowed him to go to college on the GI Bill, which is where he studied broadcasting, which is where, he kind of launched his career to a couple of years in the minor leagues, then to St. Louis. So without World War II and all that went on with that, I don't know that he ends up doing what he ended up doing. So that's one huge difference between the two of us, and probably better that it was him serving the country as opposed to me. I would have been sucking my thumb in the corner.
Would you ever get into your 60s, 70s, do all these national games and just pick like a year and say, you know what, I'm going to just, I don't want to take anybody's job, but I'd like to just step in the booth and be the voice, like Len Casper did this year. Like, I want to do radio. I want to do those playoff games. You think? I mean, it's a long ways away, probably.
Maybe. I would never say no. I think it'd be interesting to see where my boys would be at that point. They're 3 basically now. So, yeah, I mean, I think I could see doing a little bit, but I think back with the schedule of doing 162 games, and I did that for years, and it was the best training ground. I mean, my God, in a season of 162 games, you basically see everything, and you're calling everything. And some weeks are brutal, and a team stinks. Some weeks are the great. You can't wait to get to the ballpark. And it's just, you're living and dying with the team's success or failure. And it's just, that's the most fun. That's when you're a part of a good team. And when I was doing it in the 90s, they start, obviously, once La Russa showed up and Jocketty was making the deals, and they got better and better and better. But there were some bad years there in the early 90s. And, when you're a part of a good team, a part meaning you're the radio announcer, and you're waiting for guys to get on the bus, you roll up, you got a good shot to win that night. There's nothing better. But you're only as good as the team is. And so when you do it for a network, it becomes really personal. You're only as good as the job you do, and you're being judged by network executives instead of really an audience that's living and dying with every pitch. So again, I mean, it's totally different. Could I do it? Would I do it? Like you said, I feel weird talking about anybody else's job, but I think down the road, I certainly wouldn't rule that out, because I'd love to show my boys what that's like and what that's all about, and just have them be around it.
So, weird times with cancel culture, gotcha moments. You had a few of these just recently, and How hard is it now for you when you start thinking about this that, I better not say that? You just, you weren't even on air for the stupid flyover thing, which I think was great that you went on your podcast and explained it, and like that was dumb. The Colin Cowherd thing is funny to me because as I was researching, because we're going to get into this in a second, you said that already on Howard Stern that you drink before games or you have a beer. It's in the Howard Stern interview. You can hear it.
I didn't know where I said it. I mean, I said it. There you go.
You said it on Stern. Yeah, you said, "Oh, I have a beer." Right. Nothing happened that time.
Well, nothing happened because it was on Howard Stern. Right. Nobody cared. But I've said it beyond that. Like, and I haven't done it since maybe 2016. It was kind of like a stress relief. And like I said, and then it becomes the part that is so frustrating is that it doesn't represent what I said. So for people who have no idea what the hell we're talking about, I said on Colin Cowherd, as I have many other times, that a lot of the times in the first inning of like a big World Series game, I'll have the runner go get the biggest beer that they sell, and I will have it sit there in the corner of like the front left corner of where I broadcast. And if I feel like something's really tense, I'll take a little baby sip of it. But the point of it is that it's like a visual cue to just relax and know that we're just calling a baseball game. And that was the whole point of it. And then it became a thing like Joe Buck says he drinks during games. Well, I guess technically, but that wasn't really why or what or had anything to do with what I was talking about. And I'm that way. Like I'm talking to you right now. Since I sat down, I took my shoes off. Most of the time, and I was late. Obviously, I'm late to everything, but I'll light a candle sitting here. I will have stuff on my board. I need visual cues to just calm down and not let the stress of calling a big game overwhelm me. And so that was just one of many tools I use. And so to answer your question, it is a weird time. And the irony of it is I talked about this with Cowherd in that same podcast where I said, it's almost like, why do I go on a podcast and try and be funny or say something kind of out of left field, be quirky? Because if somebody's going to just lift that little piece out and not have it in with everything else and it's out of context, you sound like a lunatic. So it's a tough time. It's a different job than my dad ever experienced. I mean, some of the stuff he said, some of the stuff he did, it was just a different time. That doesn't mean it's better. It was better then. I'm not saying that. You have to give that disclaimer too, that I'm not saying it was better then, but it was just different. So you have to guard yourself at all times and pick and choose your spots. So it's frustrating, but it's either that or don't do it. And I'd rather just put up with it and explain myself. And, that's a better way to go about it.
So a couple more minutes. I was going to start with your podcast, but we started talking about your dad. But that's the name of the podcast,
okay.
Daddy Issues. It's really good. It's you and Oliver Hudson, big guest, Adam Carolla, Eddie Vedder, Hank Azaria, and then you got your sports guys, Adam Sandler, Barkley. It's a great mix. But just tell me, I feel like I'm the reason why you're doing one because we did an interview the last time we did. It was your book. And I bought the audiobook because I'm not much of a reader. I don't like to read. So I told you, I said, man, it was just like listening to a podcast. When are you going to do a podcast? And lo and behold, you picked Oliver Hudson instead of me to be the co-host, which is fine. Bigger name, but just tell me a little bit about what you would want people to know.
Him, he's not. He's got a million daddy issues. My daddy issues are all kind of coming from a good place because, he's my best friend.
Well, yeah. So you could have just done a podcast, but you really you do concentrate. Was that what in your mind? I want to do a podcast, but I want to have a reason. Like I wanted to have, some structure of we're going to talk about parenting and things with people you don't hear talk about it. Or was it, I'm going to do a podcast and if that stuff comes up, because it really is interesting because you don't hear people talk about those things the way you guys are talking about them.
Yeah. We just did one with John Stamos and did that yesterday. And then last week did Tia Mori, who was on the show Sister, which I was really well aware of because my girls watched every episode of that and I was watching it with them. And she, at the end, was like, I just think it's really cool to hear two, men, Oliver's 44, I'm 51, almost 52, talk about parenting and kind of, being a man in the world today and what that entails, and, being a son and being a brother and being a father and being a husband and an ex-husband and all these different things. Oliver and I are really good friends. We're very different. He's kind of more carefree. I'm more, it's almost like the odd couple. I'm Felix and he's Oscar. I'm more straight-laced and he's more kind of crazy and just go by the seat of his pants. But he's a great dad. I like to consider myself, I hope I'm a great dad or a good dad. And talking about this stuff, Oliver had a dad that walked out on him when he was less than 10. He changes the age every time we do a show. So let's say 6. He's got a sister, Kate Hudson, who's, been nominated for an Oscar. His mom's Goldie Hawn. His dad, his de facto dad, is Kurt Russell. And he always feels like he doesn't measure up. And he also is still, obviously scarred by his dad leaving him at such a young age. And he's a great dad himself, and he wanted to break that cycle of kind of feeling abandoned as a child. And he's done that successfully. And then for me, my daddy issues are from all good stuff. I love my dad. He was my best friend. I idolized the guy. In St. Louis, I'll never measure up. And I think those are the daddy issues that I have. And that's fine. That's not like I don't have any resentment to him for that at all. But that's having a through line, I think, is necessary, at least for me, to have something to go back to for every guest. If you talk to Eddie Vedder, if you talk to John Stamos, if you talk to Nikki Glazer, if you talk to Adam Sandler, everybody's got a story about their dad. It may be great, it may be horrible, it may be something in the middle. But everybody's got a story, and everybody comes from somewhere. So I think talking about that stuff has been really rewarding and fun, and it's slowly growing in popularity. So it's nice to have something of my own and have something of my own that's not just sports.
Yeah, it feels like this is like the outlet for you. I always felt like that would be perfect, because maybe the HBO thing was a little too stiff and stodgy. Undeniable was just kind of straight on interview, but this is where you get to be you and you can curse and get to kind of just say the thing. And then also, like what I said, when you have a drinking thing come up with Colin Cowherd, you can go on, and that's what I was really interested in. Or the flyover incident, you talked about it easily, and just that way you get your voice. You don't have Dan Caesar picking out quotes or Rudy Martzke. I don't even know if he's still, I guess he's not doing that anymore, but you get to sit.
There's a fake Rudy Martzke out there. Yeah, that's exactly what it is. And I think anytime you kind of give somebody else control over your voice, so to speak, you don't know how it's going to come out. And so when it's you and you get a chance to slowly, methodically go through something that happened, it's a pleasure. It's like, okay, if you want to really know what happened in the flyover thing, which was us talking facetiously way off air before the game to our producer. It was stuff we talk about at dinner, stuff we talk all the time about. If you want to know what that was really all about, as opposed to what was kind of sold up the river with pirated audio that was taken from a rehearsal, well, then here's where you can go and listen to it. Or if you want to know about the Colin Cowherd situation, what I was actually saying on there instead of what becomes clickbait, then come to the podcast. And so, yeah, that's kind of a fringe benefit, but not the reason to do it. But it's certainly nice to have that once a week to go, well, I'm going to save my rebuttal for when my name's on it, not somebody else's.
I appreciate this time. I know I've spent more time with you. I have a couple quick hits. What's going on behind you? I see an Emmy. I see some pictures. Do you mind us just kind of taking a look at what's going on back there? What do you got? Anything fun to tell us?
I've got the World Series trophy that was my gift from my dad for Christmas in 1982, a couple months after the Cardinals won the World Series. So that's what that's from. It's kind of a miniature version, but legit. I mean, it's not plastic. It's heavy. If there's gold involved, there's gold plated something. And then an Emmy, and then I think a lot of what else is back there? My dad's scorecard from McGuire year, I believe, when in '98, one of those home runs. And then just a lot of pictures of my dad and me, pictures of my mom's back there somewhere. Howard Stern is over here.
So that's what I thought. I didn't want to say anything. I was like, is that Howard over there? Why is he over there?
Howard's over there. My kids are somewhere. They should be way more prominent than they actually are.
Why is Howard over there? I'm curious.
Just, I don't know. It's just different. And if I go on, like I sat in this seat for an appearance on the Ellen show, and for her to see Stern back there, I don't know. He sent me that. It's an autographed picture of him. I've had 1,000 autographed pictures from people, none of which are displayed anywhere, and most of which have been lost. But that one I put up, and I don't know. It would be a good show to kind of dissect what's behind everybody and kind of go through the reasons why. Certain friends, a specific golf trip, a moment, with my wife on a, important vacation, or my mom is back there from Broadway. That was like her headshot back in the 60s. I feel like everybody kind of had to make their best background this past year. And this is kind of a mess behind me, but it's not like the Da Vinci Code, but there are things back there that I think are important to me. And if you really took a minute to go through all that, I don't want to bore your audience because they can't see it. So that's kind of what's back there.
No, that's why the man cave became kind of a nice thing back here. People ask why I stand, and it's just more comfortable. I mean,
nice. I need to get a hold of your framer and or your picture hanger.
That's me.
Whoever
I did that. That's eBay. That's
have heavy OCD, which we just talked about with Howie Mandel. I'm kidding about the OCD part, but Howie Mandel does come out this week. I don't know when this podcast is going to air, talking about a lot of that stuff that he's dealt with. But my God, that is like a level playing field.
So a friend of mine he's an architect type guy, and he had a picture, and it's like 1,000 times more nicer than this. So I liked it. And all you had to do, this is really easy. It was, you just put the piece of paper, and you put the frames in, and then just cut the paper out. It was more, I'm not good at this stuff, but it actually turned out, it's the 2006 and 2011 Cardinal World Championships, along with some Legends Camp. And there's me and Mark McGuire after the 2000 NL DS, and when they won the Central. I'm telling you what is going on back here with me. I don't know if you...
a lot of that stuff kind of blends in for me. I'm better at 80s trivia than I am at anything in the 2000s.
This will go somewhere. This will definitely... And I always have to ask... We've done a bunch of these interviews. I always go, so what's next? So how many more years of baseball? Is there anything? I mean, you're doing a podcast. It feels like we're in a good groove right now, right?
I've carved out, I think, as good a schedule as I can carve out. I think the one thing that people mistake is that they think I'm constantly working, which I like that perception, but that's not reality. I mean, when I was a young dad in my late 20s and early 30s, which sounds really young to me now, I had more time with my daughters than any of my friends that were, going to the office, doing the 9-to-5 thing, getting maybe a minute to themselves on the weekend, going and playing golf. I was there like Monday through Friday. I'm home. So I'm there for homework. I'm there for carpool. I'm there for morning drop off. I'm there for, practice after school, whatever that was. So I think schedule wise, I'm good. I don't hope to change anything anytime soon. And, I've managed to figure out a way where I pack the majority of my schedule between October and the end of January. And the rest of the calendar is time to either just get out of people's television screen or raise a family. And that's, it's the best of both worlds. And I, what's next is just continuing to do what I'm doing, hopefully growing the podcast out bigger and better. But even if one person listens to it or a billion people listen to it, it doesn't really change kind of why I want to do it. I just want to do it because I enjoy it, and I enjoy my co-host, and most of the time enjoyed the hell out of anybody we've had on. So it's fun to do. And that's what fun is going to dictate whatever choices I make going forward. If it's fun and something exciting that I want to do, I'm going to try to do it. And if it isn't, then I'm going to eliminate it.
I hate to be very personal, but every morning on Google, I'd see that you'd sold a house. So I'm glad.
Yeah, we sold a house here. We're moving to another house, literally down the street. Okay. So
people are worried. Like, is Joe leaving St. Louis? That's like a huge don't.
No. Just kind of trading one for the other, and with boys this little, having a little bit of space between us and them is what we're kind of trying to achieve. But yeah, love the house we're in, which is the house we just sold. Excited about the house we're going into, but going 200 yards from where I'm sitting right now.
Good. All right, everybody can calm down. Joe, I know you do. Yeah. You got a lot of people asking you to do these, so I always appreciate you taking some time. This is always fun. Like I said, grew up with your dad, grew up listening to you. You've always been good to me, so I appreciate this, and maybe we'll do it again in another 5 years. I think I got most of the stuff here. This is how I do my prep. I don't know. But
I'm proud of you. Yeah, no, I'm obviously, yeah, of course. And sorry, I'm tough sometimes to pin down, but I'm happy to do it. I'm happy for your success and all that you're doing. I feel like I've watched you grow up. So good for you, and thanks for having me on.
All right, that's Joe Buck. We thank Joe. We hope you enjoyed this. Brought to you again by Masses in St. Louis, 5 locations, stlmasses.com. We'll see you next time.